I wanted to begin on that note.
Yes.
In fact, when Mr. Naganan said that hello to all the prospective clients, I was pleasantly surprised and a bit worried because he appears for the distribution companies in Karnataka. He represents the state. Now, if he is switching sides, we have to change our careers.
I'm not so sure.
I have to go to
maybe he'll still continue to appear for the state and still the state will be his client.
Yeah, maybe he was addressing the minister, perhaps. Anyways, now, may I, on that note, begin? First, yesterday evening, I was making a interesting analysis. Lawyers don't do any number crunching, and we don't visit the power sector websites often. I was visiting a website by an exchange, maintained by an exchange, to find out how much does it cost to bring 1 megawatt electricity to Karnataka. And this is what 3 rupees is the IEX price, and 1 hour trading, 1 megawatt quantity, 66 kV level. I was surprised. I spoke to Devesh from exchange that what is this? 3 rupees power costing 6 rupees 87 paise. There must be something wrong, phenomenally wrong. What is wrong is evident from the next slide. You see, if trading hour is increased to 12 hours instead of 1 hour, it becomes 4 rupees 12 paise.
Can you repeat that?
The trading hour, if you see, if you have a pointer, if I can. There is a, does it work? Yeah. Yeah, see, if you see the trading hour, maybe it doesn't work. Yeah, over here.
It's working. Use the mic.
Yeah.
It's working. It's
The trading hour, if it is 1 hour, then the cost is around 6 rupees 87 paise. Then if it is 12 hours, it is around 4 rupees 12 paise.
Why?
Because the open access charges get evenly spread out across the hour.
NLDC and SLDC charges will get divided.
Yes, so they get evened out across the. So if it is 24 hours, it is 4 rupees. So this interesting thing I did not know. So I wanted to begin with that note because to let you know that how ignorant we are as lawyers. We don't even know the practicalities of scheduling, how much is the landed cost of power if one were to ask me. I wouldn't know. It's a very interactive website maintained by Exchange. You must visit it. Now that website also may get changed because the open access charges are going to change from April.
No, which exchange is this? You're pushing one exchange. So which one? People do it in very subtle ways.
I am saying this.
अच्छा बाबा which exchange बता दो ना? IEX लिखा है? अच्छा ठीक है. Okay, sorry.
It is only to let you know
Too
that
much
there is
light.
a mechanism available to know what is the landed cost of power. If you were to make this, the inputs, it will lead you to the prices. Anyways. Yeah, so with this I would make a brief presentation on the points that are displayed. So the present regime, I wanted to analyze it from a historical perspective. When we are discussing about future, we have to trace it from a historical perspective. Now if I were to chronologically point out certain important milestones in the trading of electricity, or if you may say open access of electricity, the important milestone was 19(1)G guaranteed by the Constitution. Now there was an interesting note which Mr. Harry said, using mobile phone is not a fundamental right. It may be. Right of speech is a fundamental right, so also, So carry on trade and commerce was guaranteed by the Constitution under 19(1)G. This was.
Now you understand why lawyers will always make money. Even mobile is coming under right of speech.
Now. Yeah, so 19(1)G was the first important milestone. Associated with that is the First Amendment brought about in 1951, which imposed reasonable restrictions on this trade. So this was the second important milestone. Unless you brought that important checks and balances, it would have become a meaningless right. So this next important milestone was the Sixth Amendment Act to the Constitution, which spoke about the introduction of the central sales tax, facilitation of central trade, and removal of the embedded cost, the grandfathering or whatever, pancaking of the cost across the states. Suppose the electricity were to be traded from one state to the other, both the states were entitled to levy charges, and with the Sixth Amendment, this was effaced and only one charge was levied. That's how the Sixth Amendment, in fact, is the important milestone which brought in the commercial sales tax, the central sales tax. Now, Section 6 was inserted in 1973 to the CST. Now, why is it important? Is because first time in Central Sales Tax Act, it was said that interstate trade of electricity will not invite tax. So, once it was recognized that across India you could trade and you could, trade with ease, and with removal of these charges, there was a recognition that the federal structure of the state has to be retained, the industry has, the commerce and industry has to be promoted, the goods have to have free movement. Then, when the sales tax acts were enacted across the state, and then when the VAT came, there was a specific exemption granted for the electricity trade, the electricity sale.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
These state sales tax legislations were state-wise, right?
Yes.
Do they cover Jammu and Kashmir and some other states?
I have to explain.
You'll have to check. So, but now all
Each
states,
state has one VAT Act now.
that's come to VAT.
The sales tax is nothing but VAT. VAT Act is legislated across the. So we have Mr. Shekhar Reddy to enlighten us on the tax elements of it. Now, ex-regulator and tax expert. Now, what I wanted to communicate to you was this open access is nothing new, or open access is nothing new, and as if we are projecting as if Electricity Act brought it or some other act brought it or new act is going to enforce it. Historically, we have been facilitating interstate trades. Historically, we have recognized, yes.
Mr. Babu, just one clarification. So if this carriage and content is separated, electricity will not attract tax. Will the distribution of electricity will then attract tax? I just want a clarification. I want to learn that.
I would. That's why I said, caveated it by saying the tax experts are here.
No, I'm going to react to that. He will not reply. So let's be very clear. Let me react to what you're saying. I would invite your attention to the 2002 judgment of the Supreme Court in the matter of NTPC versus the state of Andhra Pradesh,
Yes.
where Andhra Pradesh had actually imposed a sales tax, which is what he's talking
Electricity
about.
duty.
Electricity duty, so there is a very beautiful judgment about creating a judicial fiction in public interest, since electricity is generated and consumed instantly,
Yes.
as to how to determine whether the power is actually being consumed in Andhra, or has it gone to the other southern states who are the constituents of Ramagundam, precisely Ramagundam, Sota. So I think that's a very interesting judgment you should read, Mr. Anup Singh. And that deals exactly with this issue.
Yeah, the Sixth Amendment, all this is actually a product of that judgment. I'm thankful to Harry that he went exactly to the point and, it.
I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, of course. You are something more than that. You have organized so many lawyers. And, I would say that this judgment is a phenomenally handy tool. In fact, have I discussed it? No, I'm sorry. I ought to have discussed that in a bit more detail to show that courts are perceived to be, what Harry began with that negative note that courts do not see commerce, we are all chores and we are kallas, as he wanted to describe, but courts have never done that. The legislative framework is very robust. Legislative framework always recognized the trade and commerce with the needed emphasis.
Is a
It's only that we have
clarification,
not-
I don't want a contempt of court on my head. I never said courts see it, as a general perception, which includes the
Yeah,
general.
but let us also see this in perspective, that how courts have helped. Now, the next phase would be formation of KPCL. That was debated in the morning. In Karnataka, I am now concentrating only on Karnataka to give you certain development. See, content and carrier was separated way back in 1970, when it was not even, a moot issue in the policy making domain. Now, constitution of the regulators in 99 with the Reforms Act, then the framing of Electricity
No,
Act.
I'm sorry, I beg to differ. I just want to clarify. How is separating generation from distribution got anything to do with separation of carrier and content? I don't understand that.
The content is power. Carrier is the distribution company. So when there was a bundled entity called KB, Karnataka Electricity Board, when you carve out a separate entity looking after only generation, you are separating carrier from content. Now, not necessarily the transmission and distribution.
I think Anup
part of it.
has something to say. I don't agree with you, but Anup?
Yeah, I also feel it probably not into the purview of differentiation between carriage and
See,
content.
the generation was always a bundled function. I am only talking about separation of generation from distribution and transmission. Only from that perspective. I am not saying they separated the transmission and distribution and then supply. So what I am trying to communicate is, it took us so many years to recognize that supply has to be separated from distribution or wiring business. But our policy makers had envisaged this separation way back in 1970 when they carved out a distribution company. Many boards, etc., were then integrated bundled utilities with generation as one of the functions. The next milestone was PTC's judgment, an important milestone in the regulatory domain, which you all know the regulations cannot be the subject matter of a litigation before the APTEL because they are having the force of law and they can penetrate into the contracts. That was the judgment rendered. Then now this Amendment Act, I would have brought in that NTPC judgment also one of the milestones. Also another judgment of the Supreme Court which recognized for the first time that electricity is goods. So with these two inclusions, which I have not made, I would say that these are the important milestones. Then let us go to the important factors. This you already know, that open access, the Indian realities, that was the topic assigned to us. So Indian reality is that there are glaring economic
hold on.
inequalities. Yeah.
The point Anup raised earlier, I'm just thinking, separation of carriage and content will mean that the wires fellow is providing a service. There will be a service tax implication. Service tax there will be there. And with regard to electricity being exempted from sales tax, I think that may stand. But you are right, there will be an increase because the wire company will be providing a service. Even today there is a debate on whenever you trade or do transactions on the exchange, whether Power Grid is offering you a service or not. But right now there seems to be, somebody is quiet about it, but I think when this happens, this may happen. Sir, you have something to say.
See, in the light of,
I can't hear you.
in the light of, is not charge and VAT, the same thing it will not be in future. In all fairness, government may not charge service fee on this thing. It can always exempt. We need not be very afraid of that. We should see in this perspective. See, there is a generation of reforms. As he rightly pointed out, generation is separated. Now there is a transmission and service. They are all now bundled together. Now we are unbundled these things for various things. In the course of time, some new problems will emerge. New issues will emerge. All will be sorted out through a legislation or through some other means. Just because there are some problems likely to come, they will not remain as it is. Please let's be very honest about it. We are only thinking static on one thing, dynamic on another thing. No,
Yeah.
they will also go with this.
Anuj?
I had just one point. Right now, say in Karnataka, there is a electricity tax of about 6%, for which no input credit is being allowed to the industry. With the GST coming in and we talking about, one country, unified, everything, what's going to happen to this particular electricity tax? How is it going to be subsumed? What is it?
Now, I have a counter question for you. When VAT exempts electricity, as a specific exemption is granted under VAT, a specialized legislation, can you tax it through some other statute of 1959? VAT Act of 2005 says there is no tax. Now, why can or how can 1959 legislation tax, even if presuming that it is amended in 2003, the provisions are substituted, so that dates back to the original enactment of 1959. So can you tax it in the first place? Forget the input tax credit or the propriety of absorption.
I know, it's been.
Anyway, I mean,
in fact,
again you will blame me for being a...
now you're being nice. Now he's giving some free advice, so he's okay. Now, what I want to just add.
Responded with a counter question.
Yeah, that you did very well and you answered quite a few things. The point is, the 1959 Act talked about electricity duty so that enabled governments to service the poorer sections of society. But the 2003 Act and subsequently also have a cross-subsidy surcharge. So nowadays what is happening is there are two types of taxations. In fact, one of the points we should note is the consumer's tariff is up, because on one hand you have electricity duty, which was ostensibly for the poorer sections, and again you have the same thing in the Electricity Act 2003 in terms of the regulations, where the regulator is charging you a higher tariff so that there is an element of cross subsidy of the poorer sections. So it's happening twice.
Fair. Now, instead of debating on the abstract ideas, let us go straight to the important, one of the important impediments for open access has been the structural challenges that we have of dealing with a monolith. Now, let us see how this translates. Now, if you want interstate open access today, you have to deal with SLDC, any SLDC of the state, which will give you the NOC or standing clearance. Now, if you ask me, if there is only one sphere, one domain, which uses only one machinery, I mean the state and the center use only one machinery to collect or transact in open access, I mean one mode to transact, it is only electricity, if I may further elaborate that. Suppose there is a central sales tax. There is a separate machinery carved out by the center. For VAT, there is a separate machinery. There is no crisscrossing or intermingling. But in interstate open access, SLDC, an arm of the state, controlled by the state, operated by the STU, is the agency to grant you NOC. So why not have a separate agency when you are dealing with interstate open access is the first question I want to pose to the podium. Now, that is the important structural change that this act should bring about. That be it tax, be it duty, be it anything, cross-subsidy surcharge, be it open access, let us have separate machineries, separate administrating structures. Let us not mingle SLDC, involve SLDC into granting interstate open access, because there is a conflict. Now, if SLDC, now what is SLDC? It is operated by STU. Now, STU is also the transmission licensee, and all the employees of the distribution companies are on deputation from STU. So I would put straight this question that if you have a monolith, fair enough, maintain the cadre, maintain the same cadre, don't privatize them in the actual sense, don't privatize them even in the notional sense, but why are you having one machinery for interstate open access? At least have another, a separate mechanism. Yes.
Sorry, I know you will not like this, but we run out of time. So
Yeah,
just
I'm
conclude.
concluding it. The next reality that we have to face is the unscientific way of the carving out of the distribution structures. Let us take the example of GESCOM, Gulbarga in Karnataka, which constitutes about 68% of the talukas are in the most backward region, 67% of the women are I mean, I would not read out all the statistics. It is for you to decipher. This is the state of affairs of this distribution company, which records one of the highest electricity accidents in the state. Now, if this is the reality, if you want to have 1 megawatt open access, or even say simpliciter open access, is it practicable? So therefore a thinking should come. I wish the minister would have been here. Why not integrate this distribution company into one, like Mahadiscom model or Tangetco model, instead of physically making GESCOM making a separate regional demarcations just for the sake of it. Now open access, the present regime envisages that there is no deemed open access in the intrastate open access regime. Now, unlike in CRC where we have a deemed concept, there is no deemed intrastate open access. I don't know the act addresses this issue to any specific extent, and particularly the renewables, when they go for wheeling and banking agreements, the existing regulations of KERC do not have any provision for deemed open access or a timeline within which you have to sign the wheeling and banking agreements. Then no clarity or standard operating procedures, there is no penalty. No clarity on the backup supply charges, taxes and metering. Now when I say taxes, it is the electricity duty. Now let us go to the open access proposed amendments. The obligated entity means the distribution licensee or the consumer. This was the long pending demand of a section of the stakeholders, that the open access users also should be brought within the renewable domain. Then no license shall be required by generating company or a captive trading licensee for open access in any place, provided no license shall be required for activities assigned to the intermediary companies. This is what we have to debate. Now, how does that evolve? That if you don't require an intermediary company approval, I mean, if the intermediary also can carry out the same activities, then this transmission open access says, in transmission open access under section 38, the state appropriate state commission will have to decide the cross subsidy, which anyway was the case with the earlier regime as well, but it has been further clarified. Now, section 42 says it shall be the duty of the distribution licensee to provide non-discriminatory open access, which was always the case but has been further emphasized. Now, this is an important concern I have, wherein they say other charges, the open access shall be allowed on payment of surcharge, which shall be in addition to wheeling and other charges payable. Now, what is this other charges? So, if this one bird can, efface the electricity, the open access aspiration, and this is made compensatory. Now, if it is compensatory, if, the land is lost, then you compensate, or any asset is lost, then you compensate. Is it something akin to that when you say cross subsidy is a compensatory charge? Then, we need to debate the jurisprudence behind it, that what is compensation and whether compensation is equitable, compensation, or should I pay something more than what he actually has to lose. The next important amendment is open access users from renewable energy. I have a point to make, that if renewable energy consumers do not have to pay the surcharge, then who else will pay on their behalf? Should the distribution companies absorb it, or should other users absorb it? Now, if you take the example of solar incentives that are available across the state, it is any ordinary consumer also will bat for it. You should have solar debate. You should give solar rebates for the solar water heaters. 50 paisa rebate or unlimited rebate. But who pays for it? You and me, the other consumers. Utilities have never absorbed it. So my question to you is whether the utility should absorb it or the consumer other consumer should absorb it should be very much clarified. Now, notwithstanding anything contained, open access shall not switch over to other supplier except giving notice of minimum time period as may be prescribed by the commission. Now, is this a kind of NOC to be obtained from the distribution licensees? If he says that this is the time period prescribed, you have not given a due notice to me, and can that be a matter of litigation and complications is what needs to be debated. Then, the other charges, yes, as I have said, these are the issues which I wanted to skip this slide because the content is already covered. Well, now let us come to the 1 megawatt amendment. What I want to highlight is that it is there is an option for the 1 megawatt consumer. So deemed status is not mandatory. It is not said that 1 megawatt, henceforth no tariff order shall be passed by any regulatory commission for 1 megawatt because he is a deemed open access user. That is not the case. It says the option is with the open access user insofar as it is said that 1 megawatt and above power system may procure at their option. So, if I don't opt, I don't have that right. So, it is not mandatory. So, you cannot compel a regulator not to pass a tariff order in respect of 1 megawatt consumers. And then, even in the next section, if you see that, you can enter into an agreement as may be agreed upon by them. So, you are not a regulated entity if you enter into some sort of a contract. So, you are totally outside the ambit. Now, these are the points I want to make.
Sorry, you'll have to go back to that slide.
Yeah.
You see, on the one hand, you're saying that you are under regulation, on the other hand, you're saying you are beyond regulation. So what is your final prognosis or conclusion? Is 1 megawatt and above outside the regulatory framework?
At his option, he chooses. The
If he-
consumer chooses.
Yes, Anup. Can you come, can you come closer? Yeah.
My understanding is that this tariff is to be determined for those consumers who have not opted for that
True.
access. So those who have opted, obviously they will agree between the two
Okay,
parties.
here is the problem. I am an industry. I'm wearing his hat now. I am not going to take, I'm using the word panga with my distribution company where I'm linked in case my open access fails. Okay? So what I do is I go for what is called partial open access.
Partly exclusive.
When I go for partial open access, then I'm partially regulated or I'm not regulated.
No,
You are partially regulated.
So I'll be partially
So
regulated.
remember, when you have exercise option, at that time it is between the two parties. Till you are a
To the
consumer
extent-
of
He is
I'll
asking
give
you the
an
same
example.
transaction if you have two contracts.
I'll give you an actually live example. Mumbai airport load is 20 megawatts. Okay? 10 megawatts, I go for the open access option as Bombay airport. And 10 megawatts, I stick with my distribution company, which in this case is Tata's right now. Now, when I go for partial open access, that 10 megawatts is outside regulation. Correct? The other 10 is within regulation. Fair enough. because the distribution company can't. Now, what they are doing actually, and this is the point which is very important, that's why I asked him to come back to this slide, is the 10 megawatts that I am supposed to supply to Mumbai airport. When my supply is say 5 megawatts, on 5 megawatts he charges me 16 rupees per unit. And he says, I am charging you the temporary tariff plus the UI plus this plus that, which is the maximum that is possible to be charged, because this is a temporary supply, because your open access consumer has not got his supply for those few hours or few days or whatever. Now that seems to be very justified, but what it is doing is, it is stopping people looking at industry, and I'm sure industry will react, stopping people in industry from going for the open access option also. Because I don't want to end up trying to save 1 rupee, paying 16 rupees in case you fail as an open access supplier. A. B, it is also extremely dangerous for me to do that, because there is no clear clarity on regulation on what do you do with partial open access. Is it allowed or not? Yeah.
I think just one reaction to the, if suppose your open access supplier fails to deliver you what you end up consuming from the grid, then it is to be written in the contract between you as a consumer and this open access supplier, that if you don't supply, and if there is any incidental penalty or extra charges which will come due to this difference between your tariff and 16
You will
rupees,
compensate.
Yeah, you will compensate.
Now,
That's how
you
it
do a
is.
simple mathematical calculation at 4 paisa margin and 6 paisa margin.
Yeah, there nobody
How much
will-
power are you going to supply,
Yes, yes.
and how are you going to pay 16 bucks, and what do you compensate? Open access won't happen.
ABT for the UI charges is important here. It should be applicable under that rather than 16 rupees. If it's an over or under drawl, if it's a completely curtailment, then it is a temporary consumption.
He doesn't bother about UI charges. He says, I'm going to charge you temp charges.
The backup supply charge.
No, I think, Harry, you raised a very valid point, and this is a very practical issue being faced by. Just add on to that, now we talked about a situation where the private supplier is not able to meet the supplies or supply commitment. What happens? You have the states who have got a power to direct power from all these generators, anybody, to give it to the government distribution companies today, in the interest of serving the public and all that. Now, if that kind of situation happens, and this private generator has to instead of supplying to the consumer, he has to move all this electricity here, then what kind of situation will happen? So should these powers still continue, or should these be taken care of?
So partial open access and temp charges is another way of stopping open access. I have a question here, sir. Identify yourself. Illa, sir, it's not on, sir.
General Manager of Davangere Sugar Company. We are all talking about this open access and 1 megawatt in Dabhol, where there is connections are provided by the concerned DISCOMs, and there are two components of charges from the DISCOMs. One is the demand charge, and another is the energy charge. We talk only about the bilateral tariff and energy charges and all. What happens to the demand charges? Suppose if I go to a open customer, bilateral, if I buy power from an independent producer or anybody, what happened to that demand charges?
They reduced the demand charge. In the case of Mumbai airport, what they did, no. It may not be in Karnataka, but I'm just sharing with you.
Tamil Nadu, I think.
In Tamil Nadu, other states, what they do, the moment they say you are going for 10 megawatt out of 20 for open access, they reduce your demand charge to 10. So that they can charge you temporary charges. Otherwise, they have to charge you HT tariff.
So they suspend you from being a consumer for that period. So I can live.
Very good. Oh, thank you. Tamil Nadu is one better. Demand also, temporary also. Excellent. Yes, you have something to say.
Yeah. So, availability of supply on the other hand, the firmness of, power supply can also play a role. Like renewable, transactions, whether in state of Karnataka or Andhra, Telangana, or even Tamil Nadu, for example, solar, if we say, they give a complete rebate in demand and there are no additional charges for, taking that supply. But that comes as an incentive. Like for example, Andhra, you go, 19% is the approved CUF for a solar project. You sign up 10 megawatt solar under open access. They give you 1.9 megawatt as a rebate in demand. So that much amount you save straight away. Karnataka also for solar it is there, for others it is not there, even if you go for a long-term contract.
He is pushing his renewable energy, but one sec, hang on. Everyone's pushing everything. Hold on, hang on a second. I want, Anup, can you give the mic to gentleman in pink shirt who talked about Tamil Nadu, demand and temporary? Please identify yourself and say it, and then the gentleman, the grey hair right behind, and then I'll come to you. Yeah, it's on, shoot.
Coromandel Electric Company Limited. I am a generator. So my consumer, everybody is complaining that the demand charges, what the sanctioned demand is there, that is billed. Whether you are taking it or not, you have to pay 90%. If you, as you said, the mix of open access with grid as well as any third party, if you are not getting the power fully from the third party, they are claiming as a CGP outages charges. So that is as good as temporary charges because of non-fulfillment of the supply.
Yeah, I'm Radhaswamy from Indian Institute of Science, sir. Sir, this BESCOM, actually, I don't know why they are increasing this additional security deposit. I don't understand.
Why you are increasing your consumption?
You know, we can not have a one-day conference, a one-year conference on all the issues in the power sector.
See, this actually,
They are entitled to it.
see, as far
Okay,
as this...
microphone for the gentleman at the back there. Yeah, just where you are, right there.
No, actually.
You must be insecure.
There are regulations to that effect. It's
They're
a law.
insecure about
It's a
something.
very elementary.
So my question is, in the context, my question is under the regime of section 11, wherever there is a direction from the state government for supply, all the generation to be supplied to the grid, there is a contradiction that has to be addressed in the act itself, in the amendment.
They've knocked off section 11 completely. When I was sitting in the parliamentary committee, I asked the joint secretary concerned, I said, kya hua? You were going to say section 11, under section 11, emergency will only be for 15 days or 20 days or 30 days. They'll be coming around. But they went and removed it. I don't know why.
Thanks.
So
And
can
it's
I-
still in the Supreme Court, by the way.
Can I quickly wrap up? Yeah, so, sorry. The presentation, the mandatory versus may, which you
Excuse me,
saw.
sir.
Then the universal supply obligation, it is at the option of the consumer. And the other point, only point I want to highlight in this is the bilaterals. You see, in the amendments affected, it is said that the bilateral alone is permitted. You see, if you see the clause here, it says at their option, so if you are a 1 megawatt above, at your option you are allowed under the bilateral arrangement. Why should it be limited to bilateral arrangements alone? It should be for all commercial transactions.
He's pushing the exchange.
Yeah. So, and then willing and banking. Willing and banking is prevalent in most southern states. So willing and banking is a form of open access where the distribution company itself supplies and squares off your units consumed. So whether 1 megawatt and above condition, where you can determine your own terms and conditions, your own, you can decide your own structures as may be agreed upon them, will prevail in willing and banking agreements, because willing and banking agreements are all standardized by the regulator. So can you structure your own willing and banking agreement is the next question. Then, all these amendments, an important point.
But you're going too fast. Can you just go back?
Yeah,
again?
because you are making.
I am making you fast, but doesn't matter, sir. The important point. What you are saying is under content and carriage breakup, the wheeling and banking coverage, the wire company will charge you if it's not regulated. You are
See,
not.
the
See, hold on. 1 megawatt above, you're not regulated. He's providing a wire. He'll charge you what he wants.
True.
No?
I am on the point
Sorry?
that if the terms are to be privately agreed as per this clause,
Ila, sir, microphone, sir. Can you return the mic, please? Yeah, Ramakrishna in front of you.
One is the wheeling part, where you have to pay the money. The banking part is a different issue, the banking of the energy.
I'm not even there. I'm on the wheeling only. I'm
Wheeling will
saying,
not be paid.
wait, Babu, 1 megawatt and above, if it is beyond regulation, so when it power, he'll charge whatever he wants, no?
No, he cannot charge anything.
Why can't he charge?
No, the wire company cannot charge anything other than what the regulator says.
how can you say that when you say as may be agreed upon them? If it is unregulated,
Maybe agreed upon them is there in the amendment. Look, read, Baba, read.
If you are willingly giving your neck and then you can't tell everybody why you are given the neck. You have signed a document.
what document?
If you are saying wheeling and banking arrangement, you sign a particular wheeling charge and then complain. Who asked you to sign that?
No, I am not complaining. All that I am saying that after the amendment, whether this will remain, this form of open access will remain, because he will then say, as Mr. Haridol very rightly said, he will dictate terms to you. He will say, this is my agreement, because it is to be mutually agreed between me and you. So you can't tell me that I will be regulated by a regulator fixing my open access charges or any other charge.
No, wheeling charge. Wheeling charge for unregulated power flowing on my system, I will charge unregulated price.
I won't give you
Sir,
back.
he cannot charge because his total transmission charges are as per the AR. If something
There is
is
no AR,
No,
Baba.
as per the present act.
That is the amendment is what we are talking. Amendment.
Sir, that is a regulation, sir.
40, which regulation, sir?
Ramakrishna,
49
we
is
talking
being
about
amended.
amendment, yeah.
49(2) is,
I am telling with respect to this, the act will not tell you how the money has to be recovered. That is the regulation will tell you.
if you can enter into any sort of agreement with mutual agreement, I don't think without being regulated. Now this says notwithstanding anything contained in 62. Please read this. Notwithstanding contained means it will override 62. So anyways, now I leave you with that thought, though we may not want to believe it, but
I just want to say something. This is extremely interesting. This is one more impediment for open access and competition for the
Yes.
consumer. Next.
yes, sir. Now, I would come to this important slide on understanding the nature of this amendment. Most of these amendments are by way of substitution and insertion. Supreme Court discussed way back in 1952, when you substitute a provision, what happens? Supreme Court says it is as if writing in the same pen and ink as if it was written in that era. So if you are substituting, please see the amendments now affected. Wherever you find the word substitution, it means it is being substituted as if it existed in 2003. So it is being given a retrospective effect without consciously noticing it. So if there is an insertion, there is another interpretation. So this is what the Supreme Court has to say on substitution.
Hold on. Subhani, you have something to say? Microphone please for the lady. Right behind you, Ramakrishna. Lady, yeah.
To mean that it's going to be retrospective. It's a very wide interpretation, because the idea is the idea for substitution is so that there is ease to interpret and read the act. If you don't have substitution, then you're leaving much more scope for interpretation. However, the intention would not be to be retrospective because the act has subsisted currently.
That is
but
a
I
matter
agree
of-
as a lawyer and as a fellow lawyer, I can take that interpretation. It would be more helpful to me. But I don't think that was the instance with which we're actually amending the act.
Can we sit here and judge the legislator's intent?
No, not judgment, but it's also the path that we take towards this interpretation to make the Electricity Act and its reading easier.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have good news. We have more lawyers than one.
These are not judgments. These are, the moot issues that you can... See, this is what Karnataka High Court also has interpreted in number of judgments concerning property tax. I mean, I will not go into that detail. Acha. The next point, these are the suggestions. I have another...
I thought you were concluding 1 hour ago.
नहीं,
Jaldi kar yaar.
हो गया. See, these...
3 more speakers before lunch.
Yeah.
People are dying of starvation.
So, the important suggestion I have is in view of the PPN and NTT judgments, appoint judges to regulatory commissions. Then non-metering, at least meter at the DTC level so that that is what the APTEL also now has given a discount, that at least meter at the DTC level. Now, the national tariff policy formula on surcharge has to, this is a matter of greater...
Anoop's point was, who's going to do the metering when you break up content in carriage? Please answer that.
So the supplier ultimately is responsible for it. The distribution functions, now bundled functions, will be segregated, and the supplier alone will be in direct touch with the consumer, so he will have to do that. The meter at the consumer premises is the property of the supplier. So I am saying in agricultural metering, if you are not able to do on an installation based metering, at least do at your DTC.
So customer's meter is the point. Customer's meter is the point now, because power grid is extended to customer. So now today you are supplying to Praxair, tomorrow I am going to supply, so it becomes my property or his property.
Meter is always the supplier's property. That's the general CA regulations say that it's a supplier's. Yeah, so you meter
Exactly. But there is no utility here, na?
No, this is a separate point.
See, I'll just,
But will that remain his property? And meter security deposit is waived, that's all. If you have your own meter, perhaps. So you can change your meter whenever you want, if it is your property.
Yes, Anup, hold on, this will be done. Anup,
I wrote about if in retail competition in a paper of mine about 2009 and what issues we will face. And one of the issues which is not addressed at all in this amendment is unbundling of the tariff itself.
no, can you finish the metering part
That's
best?
why I'm coming to that point only.
Meter kiska hai?
I'm telling you that point only. See, what happens is your bill will have to read distribution charges, energy charges, metering charges. Now the distribution company can please also say fine 50 paisa per month or 2 rupees or 5
Because
rupees per
distribution
month.
company is dead in this model if it is 5 megawatts and above, let us say. He's not there in the picture. What distribution company are you talking about?
No, but the meter currently, I'm saying it's in the case of retail competition,
Yeah.
the meter still belongs to the distribution company.
Does it?
The existing distribution.
Does
Yes,
it?
Yes.
How can it be?
In some cases, consumers have paid
How
for
can
it.
it be? How can it be that you are transferring the responsibility and everything else and the meter still remains the distribution company? Regulator is sitting next to you. Let him talk.
Consumer owns the meter, that's all. Continues.
So consumer will own the meter and both the party, the supply licensee and the consumer will agree that the meter reading at the metering point of the consumer is the final meter reading.
Certified by an authority, that is there.
Certified by electrical
If I own the
inspector.
meter, I can change it anytime I want. As per the way.
No, I said no, certified. They are locked.
It has been locked by him.
If I am the owner, I should have the keys, no? So why? Because it is distribution
You see,
company's property.
no, I'll answer. No.
How can you?
No, if
So
this,
you say I own and I don't have the keys to it.
no, not that way. See, the supplier will always inspect that, whether it's working or not, he can always monitor that.
True, sir.
Then
So,
he can
but
do
keys
it.
will be with me.
Yes.
I can change the meter if I don't like the meter.
It's not that easy.
So calibrate fine, but if it.
Calibrated is fine. Jointly with whom? With the supply license.
So
Exactly.
that is why it's a supply
Ramakrishna
license.
has come up with a good point. Hold on a second. Let's go with what he says.
So what does CA regulation say on that?
Hold on. Boss, hold on. This is like a Arnab Goswami debate. Hold on. See, Ramakrishna's
Who is
point.
Arnab now?
You. He says that the meter will be locked between the supply licensee and the consumer. Day after tomorrow, the supply licensee changes. Then?
See,
Acha. Short term, every time you're going to keep recalibrating meter.
No.
You know how long it takes to recalibrate a meter? Ramakrishna, you're not running industry, yeah, that's the problem. You're running, okay. Good.
That's the reason I was saying the meter should be owned by the distribution company only.
There is no distribution company in this model, boss.
supplier.
No, there is a, somebody is
chalo.
providing
Supplier,
you.
Change
okay.
the avatar.
Microphone at the back for the gentleman there. Then microphone for Indian Institute of Science. Jaldi, mic kidhar hai? Come.
Central Electricity Authority regulations provide the consumers can own a meter. And basic requirement is whoever is the supplier has to be the owner of the
Sir,
meter.
Central Electricity Authority regulation will not apply is what I'm trying to come to.
No, we are addressing a question.
Yeah.
Therefore, all the three options are there. There can be
Okay.
meter charge also.
Mic beko, sir. Mic.
You can speak.
Sir, we have 2 meters, one
Check
from
meter.
KPTCL and one from BESCOM. Both they are reading. And the billing is done by BESCOM. I don't understand.
No, sir, that is the present environment. God is now going to make you life exciting in the power sector, where you will have different fellows trying to supply power to Indian Institute of Science.
So that-
Not just BESCOM. BESCOM is
So
gone.
he will have multiple meters. That's what he's saying. Now also
Now you
can
want
have
multiple
26
meters.
meter base
One
meter.
is, one
Yo.
they are written as test meter and one
It's a check
is
meter
a
and
check meter
check
or
meter, sir.
test
Ah,
meter
check
or whatever.
Main meter and check meter. It is not two meters.
Yeah, I don't understand the check meter
Okay.
and the
KPTCL,
BESCOM
last
meter.
question from KPTCL, we have to
And,
close
the
this.
bill is prepared
This
by
can go on all day. Sir,
Yeah.
microphone, Beko sir. For the gentleman there from KPTCL, please. They've given you a mic which doesn't work, that's good.
Yeah.
Chalo. Still doesn't work.
Use both. 2 meters, 2 mics.
If the supply is in the same premises, then the question of the supplier and the consumer comes into this thing. The supplier can own this thing and he can calibrate it. But suppose if the supplier goes to the open access and supplies the power, then I think there has to be a middleman out there, which happens to be the utility.
Exactly the point Anup made. Fair point. Okay, we need to conclude. Thank you very much.
If cross-subsidy consumers, and then the CGRFs, most important point, all your open access consumers, all your open access transactions in Maharashtra, as I know, will be adjudicated by CGRFs, Consumer Grievance Redressal Forums, not by regulators. I don't know whether other states also will emulate this example, wherein the DISCOM officers will adjudicate your open access disputes. So when they are deciding lists between the parties, the cases between the parties, then please have a judicial member in CGRFs as well, also in the Ombudsman. Because all your open access disputes will be, now abolish the appellate authority under 126, give the powers to the commissions, because you cannot have, 126 has now been a major point of contention between consumers. Even excess load is said to be excess, under 126. It is
Okay.
unauthorized use.
Thank you.
So compensation structure for accident should be as per the Motor Vehicles Act. KSRTC has a model for insurance where 1 rupee is collected and you
Thank
are
you,
insured
sir.
for 1 lakh.
Thank you so much. Let's
So-
interact. Please take his visiting card. Very interesting. A round of applause for this panel. Thank you so much.